So I was thinking that it might be an interesting idea to take you on a trip. I'm going to take you on a little trip to Louisville, Kentucky. It's where I was from, born and raised. It's also where my family was introduced to Jehovah's Witnesses. And I now live in Indiana. But I thought I'd take a trip back, a little trip down memory lane. I kind of realized that a lot of my life took place off of basically one street. That street would be Taylor Boulevard, which technically becomes New Cut, so I guess you kind of call it two streets, but Taylor Boulevard and New Cut Road in Louisville, Kentucky. That's where I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, where I grew up. It's where I had family before shunning. So I thought I'd drive back there, take a little trip down memory lane, take a little trip down Taylor Boulevard, and share with you a little bit about what life was like. What it was like to grow up in that area, the house that I grew up in, the house that I grew up in, at least as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, when we happened to move next door to some people who were witnesses, and then my mom started studying. So we're just about to hit the bridge, about to take a trip across the bridge into Louisville, Kentucky, and I'll see you on the other side when we get closer to my street. Arcade, that's a street where it's a basketball court down there, where myself and some of my J-Dub friends played basketball. We loved basketball, we played a lot, we were actually fairly good, and we beat a team of kids from the neighborhood down there, and they started throwing glass bottles at us. Actually right there on the corner here is where I one time hit a glass bottle while driving, pulled over because I thought my tire was busted, and a lady started getting in my car. I guess she thought I was picking her up, probably a prostitute, but welcome to my neighborhood. So here we are, Taylor Boulevard, about to turn here on Clara Avenue. This is the street that my family moved to when I was a kid. Probably, I don't really know, 6 maybe, I don't know, 6, 7. I think I was about 8 when my parents became Jehovah's Witnesses. And I am going to pull over here. Oh wow. Let's see. Because, let's see, I am going to actually go turn around because there's someone out on that porch looking. And I don't want to seem hella creepy. And this isn't the super greatest neighborhood, and I'm just not gonna mess around too much. So I'm just gonna go down here, turn around, and come back. Alright, so headed down Clara Avenue, back toward the house that I grew up in, that appears to be boarded up now. That's a fitting beginning for our journey. Alright, let's see here. I grew up in 1410, which is this boarded up house right here. So, let's see. That boarded up house right there is the house that I grew up in. The house next door to it, coming back my way, is the house where the Jehovah's Witnesses lived that introduced us to the truth. That was our next door neighbors. We lived, what, 3 feet beside them in this house, and this is where I was when my parents became Jehovah's Witnesses when I was about 8 years old. Good Lord, this is a busy street. And it happens to be the house that I grew up in as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Not trying to attract too much attention because this isn't the best neighborhood today. It wasn't when I grew up here either. But I kind of grew up here. You've got to be kidding me. There's literally a lady walking up there right now. Whoa. I could ask to go in there. Holy shit. That's kind of crazy. I really didn't expect to pull up. There must be some, maybe they're a home investor or a real estate agent, and they just went into the boarded up house where I grew up. And sitting here thinking I could maybe ask to go in. I'm not sure if I would want to or not. Wow. Talk about a unique opportunity, but also a hell of a trigger. Wow. Not really sure what to think about that. I also don't want to scare some poor fucking lady in an abandoned house. That would be, I'm sure she'd be creeped out. There comes this guy with a shun shirt on saying, hey, can I go in this abandoned house that you have access to? Wow. All right. Well, that just totally threw me off my game. Well, this is where I grew up. This is, it was a neighborhood that had a lot of problems. Used to watch drug deals go down in the alley at times. We had ivy that would grow in the back, and you could kind of hide there. And sometimes you'd watch cars pass each other and hand something out the window to one another. There was a lady across the alley and over down a couple houses who used to she used to scream, "Hope you die, hope you die." There were a lot of bad dogs in this neighborhood that would get loose, and chased by Rottweilers and other dogs. It's kind of surreal a little bit sitting in front of the house, I'm not going to lie. Especially seeing the house boarded up and everything. That wasn't something I expected, nor did I expect somebody to be going inside of the house while I'm freaking sitting here, which is crazy. Wow. So yeah, I might have to shoot my shot, and if she comes out here, I might have to ask her if it would be okay for me to walk in. I don't know if that would be allowed or not, but wow. That be a unique opportunity for sure. So we'll see if that happens. I mean, how many times you get a chance to go back in your childhood home? A house where a lot of really fucked up things happen. And I got back, reconnected with a friend, and they let me know that they used to come sometimes to see if they could visit us and hang out. course, I guess the good news is if he couldn't see me, my neighbor right next door was probably his friend too, so they could hang out. But they come over to see us, and my dad would be yelling at us so loud that you could hear it from the street. So it's just you know, this is I guess where my friends probably sat in their car waiting for my dad to quit yelling, so that we'd be allowed to play. Because if they came up and asked, my dad wasn't going to tell them no. He needed to save face. So again, just it's really weird sitting out in front of the house, especially knowing that there's somebody in there and that it's abandoned now, or maybe it's going to be flipped, or whatever the case may be. Looks like some people are kind of working on the house next door right now. On the other side, there used to be a gentleman who lived there. He was a hoarder. The backyard was full of old TVs and TV parts, things like that. Used to attract mice and rats at times, I believe, because there was just so much stuff in the backyard. He just had this old chicken wire fence between our yard and theirs, and you know, that wasn't much of a deterrent for all the critters that would get in back there. But this is the place, you know, this is the place that I called home for you know, the beginning of my Jehovah's Witness life. This is the place where, you know, I guess I lived from the age of somewhere around 6, I guess, to I think I was 19, 20 years old when I moved out. We'll actually see I'll drive by the place that I moved out to, my first ever apartment. Yeah, I'm still just kind of taken aback by the fact that I actually have a chance, or could have a chance, to walk in this place if it's empty, and that is hitting me. Not gonna lie, that is hitting me. To do something like that, or even have that chance. May not be allowed to allow some rando in there, so I don't know if that will happen or not, but I'll probably shoot that shot. Oh, here's the lady. I'm gonna ask her. So I shot my shot and I just went in the house. Oh my God. Wow, I did not expect to do that. Honestly, I was shaking a little bit when I walked in. The house is apparently for rent. It's actually fixed up pretty nice inside. I thought it was just going to be dilapidated and broken down. The house is over 100 years old. But I just kind of told them my story, and they graciously let me in. I didn't take any video inside or anything. It's not their, it's the handyman in there. It's not his property, you know. He really didn't want to let me in there, but he agreed, and because I just asked, can I just stand at the door and take a look? Wow. How many times do you get to go visit your childhood home? And I gotta say, the layout inside is almost identical to what it was when we grew up. It's missing the front door. That's all been boxed in and you know, framed in. It's got siding on it and everything. A little kid right up the street. Wow, shit. A little kid cheesing for the camera. He doesn't even know he's on camera. Wow. So, holy shit, that's the beginning to this. Oh my God, I did not expect that. I just went in the house that was pretty much everything to me growing up. Wish I could have taken video. Yeah, that's a way to start the adventure. I mean, you know, you can process this stuff all you want. You can get to a much better place with it, which I am. I'm not broken up over any of this stuff, but I mean, it is an adrenaline rush to be sitting here and to have what happened happen, and I'm so glad that I shot my shot and I asked to go in. I can't believe that just happened. So wow. All right. Must have been Jehovah's Holy Spirit helping me out. That's probably what it was. I don't know, man. Sometimes things just happen, and I appreciate it for whatever it is or was. I just got to stand in my kitchen where I sat as a kid and, you know, ate so many meals. I got to walk into the bedroom where I grew up as a kid. It doesn't look the same anymore. There's been some work done to it, but I got to walk into the bedroom where I slept as a kid, where I had nightmares as a kid at times around things that happened, and then found out there were horrible things going on in the bedroom, probably 3 feet from mine across the sidewalk, because the family that I grew up next to, apparently there was just a lot of stuff that was going on in that house. But they were Jehovah's Witnesses. They had the truth, and that's all that matters, right? So, all right. Well, we're gonna go on a little drive now. Let's take a drive down Taylor Boulevard and a trip down memory lane. Yeah, even more. So, all right. So here we go. Let's roll. All right. So now I'm driving down Clara to the one street, Taylor Boulevard, that held so much for me as a kid. Gas station that I used to go to all the time and get candy if I could find a couple nickels to rub together and get a little piece of candy here or there. About to turn right. There's going to be a Wendy's up here on the right. That was my first job. First job I ever had at 16 years old. I got to flip some burgers and slang some fries at the Wendy's. And oh, there to the left is Deja Vu, or it used to be Deja Vu strip club. It's now the Win Place and Show Bar, it looks like. And I actually had my bus stop, I believe it was in middle school, was in front of the strip club there for a little while. Welcome to the neighborhood I grew up in. So a bus stop was at the strip club. I worked at the Wendy's directly across from it, and occasionally people would come in, and that was its own interesting story at times. So Berry Boulevard right here. Still can't believe that I just got to go in the house. That is fucking insane. Cannot believe that just happened. I'm kind of dumbstruck by it, to be honest. A little bit left a little speechless, I think. I had plans of what I was gonna do and what I might say. I mean, I wanted this to kind of be off the cuff, but also there were certain things that I wanted to bring up, and wow. So one of the things I wanted to bring up is that we did not live in Kenwood's territory. We lived in Shively's territory, and the expressway up ahead, 264, or the Waterston Expressway in Louisville, that used to be the territory boundary. And so this overpass here, this is the portal to Kenwood's territory. The portal to another part of the hell that was growing up. I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses in a lot of ways. This side was the home hell, the hell that I grew up in. And look, I'm not gonna lie, there were obviously good times, but looking back on it now, so much of it was just an utter waste. Something's rattling in my car. They don't call it a Pontiac vibe for nothing. Something's vibrating. But anyway, here we are. We are now in Kenwood's territory. Just drink this all in, folks. So we are now approaching this stoplight up here was to the right where the Iroquois Homes projects. We spent a lot of time as one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the projects. The shopping center, there used to be a place called TV Specialist where I worked for a while. I repaired TVs and VCRs and installed satellite dishes and things like that. But yeah, we spent a lot of time back there in the projects. You know, I didn't realize it at the time. You thought you were helping people, but the reality is that we were just kind of preying on vulnerable people who needed hope. Placed more literature, I think, in the projects than anywhere else, and it's just kind of sad looking back. I mean, I'm glad I never brought anybody into the cult, but you know, we were out peddling false hope basically to people, people who needed that hope, who maybe were suffering or, you know, had a lot of things going on where life hadn't really gone right for them, and they were looking for something better. So it's just you know, it's a shame that if they ran into us, they didn't get any real help. We could have actually spent that time doing something for the community that would have been good. I'm gonna turn on this street here. This is Lyndhurst. This is where my first apartment was. Let's see here. I gotta find it myself. It's been a long time since I've been down here. It was a duplex. I am not sure. Actually, it was 1035. And I'll get my camera out here and get a quick little video of it. This 1035. So that right there. So this was the first place that I actually ever lived on my own. It was a duplex at the time. Now it appears to be a pretty well kept single family residence. It's like somebody put a little time and money in it, and I love that because it was actually a really nice little place. I think I rented it. Rented one side of that duplex for, it was like $210 or $250 a month, something like that. It wasn't much at all. It was super cheap. Had tall ceilings, wood floors. It was a living room, bedroom that had like a bump out on the side with kind of like bay window, and then there was a bathroom and a kitchen. Even had a full basement with laundry in it. That was mine. I actually got the laundry, and so not too bad for $250 a month. I enjoyed living there. So alright, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this off, and we're gonna go on to our next adventure. Alright, here we go. I wonder if I can go in that place too. Maybe I ought to go back and knock on it and say, hey, can I come in your now single family residence? It used to be a duplex. I lived on one side of it. I really like to see what's inside. I have a shirt on that says shunned. That doesn't look weird, does it? I'm driving around talking to myself in a car. Right. To the left, we have Iroquois High School. I did not go there. I went to Butler, but behind Iroquois High School, there is a practice football field, and my friends and I used to play football there all the time. It was pretty cool. They even had the crossbars up and everything for field goals, and we go back there and kick field goals, and play some fairly realistic football, I guess. We did play tackle. That was much to the chagrin of certain people in the congregation at times, but we played tackle and we had a lot of fun. At this intersection, this is the place where Taylor Boulevard now becomes New Cut Road, and what you'll also see here to the right is Iroquois Park. It's a very large park, nice park we used to go to all the time, and when I was probably more in my teenage years, we always had all the graduation parties and such. Those things were often at Iroquois Park. And yeah, it's a cool place. I enjoyed going there. Sometimes I'd, out in service, I'd find a reason to work my way through there and have to drive through the park to get to the other side of the territory, or there's always some reason I could find to waste a little time and go to the park. Actually, that was probably the most productive time that I had, was actually going through a park and enjoying that. And then up here, the next light, we're going to take a left, and I'm going to show you where my parents moved after they left our OG J-Dub house when I first showed you. So it's another chapter of our lives. My parents, when my grandparents died, they inherited some money, and my mom had always wanted to move. She wanted to move to a nicer area. She wanted a nicer house. Can't blame her for that, but it's hard to find that a lot of times when you grow up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, because the earning opportunities are small, and my dad was an elder, and he was supposed to spend his time being an elder and doing eldery things, not trying to do anything to benefit or better his situation in the world. So, not that he probably would have anyway, he wasn't that guy. But so my parents inherited some money, and they took that money and they moved. Bought a house on Ken Oak, and honestly, I'm gonna have to see if I can remember how to even get to it. I don't drive down this way anymore. I don't think it was this way. I think we used to get to it. We used to get to it around the side. I think that's because I'm now trying to think of the way that my wife and I would come visit from Indiana. So let's see. Yeah, here you go. So I think actually I'll go around this way so that I can show it to you. Oh, hold there. Alger. Used to have a book study on Alger at Francis No's house. I'm not even sure I could. Yeah, that's one of the brick houses down there. Actually, it might be that brick house that's painted now. But anyway, I used to have a book study there. Her and her sister Edna used live in that house, and this brownish house here to the left. See if I can swing you around to see that. I hope that shows it. But that was the house that my parents moved to when they left Clara. Again, they took their money and that they had gotten from the inheritance, and they used it to buy that house. So this house kind of had special significance in some ways. It actually was a place where, so you know, I had moved on. I had not only, by that time, I hadn't just left the duplex that I lived in over here on Lyndhurst, but I had moved on to Indiana and had a new life forming. I believe my wife and I were married already when my parents moved to this place, I think. It's kind of hard, you know, fuzzy memories, fuzzy timelines. I'm always kind of bad with time, but I believe that's where my parents moved when I was already in Indiana and married. And so they moved there with my two younger brothers and my sister, who was super young at that time. My oldest of my younger brothers, second in line to me, he lived at this house. And you know, this house honestly has a lot of bad memories for me. To be honest, I never felt comfortable at this place. I don't know if it was just because it wasn't, you know, home and it was a new place, but it just always had a really bad vibe to me. I never liked that house, not in any way. There was always a lot of tension in the house when we went there. It's also the house where, you know, my brother ended up moving from this house and then getting shunned. That was, you know, that's his story to tell, but you know, he left and then he ended up getting disfellowshipped. And there was just, you know, that happened even though he wasn't living in this house. My parents were living in this house at the time. It was just it was dark days. It's I don't know, not really sure what to say. Came over here, you know, obviously there were some good times here. Had a basketball goal. As long as there was a basketball goal, there was always that escape, and that was fun to play on. But you know, my brothers were both going through some shit. This was, you know, times in their lives where they just had a lot of pressure, and you know, pressure to be somebody they weren't. My dad wasn't he wasn't a happy person. I remember this is actually the house where one time I found out that my dad was treating, so I guess my younger brother Matt was disfellowshipped at this point, and my next youngest brother Steven and my dad weren't getting along, and I don't know, I just found out things were pretty bad. So I you know, without going into the details of that stuff, because again, not all of that's my story to tell, but you know, as an adult, I invited my dad out for a drive. I got him in the car. My mom knew what was going on. My wife knew what was going on. There was some, I think they were all both happy to see me take my dad out to have a conversation, but I think there was also some bets on who was going to come back alive. But I took my dad actually to Iroquois Park, the park that I just showed you a minute ago. There's some horse stables there, and got him in the car, asked for him to go for a ride, and took him over there by the horse stables, got him out of the car, and had a talk. And there was a talk about how I wasn't going to watch him do to yet another one of my brothers what he did to me and my other brother. I wasn't going to just stand by and watch him be the asshole that he was to them. I didn't want the rest of my siblings to live in the fear of him. He was an intimidating guy. Never was really physical. You just knew not to take it to that place. He just He was a miserable man, and he made a lot of other people miserable. So I had a conversation with him and was like, you know, this isn't going to go down this way. Like, we got to talk this through. And my dad said some things that made it sound like he understood. If I remember correctly, my mom said the next week he actually went to a doctor, got on some depression medication. Things were better for a short while. Then my dad decided he didn't need to take that shit anymore, so he didn't. And, you know, I'm sure the assholery began again. But it is what it is, and there's nothing I can do about it. From what I understand, he did get better in some ways. I don't know. I didn't live that part of the story. But, you know, I do know he was on notice, at least. That, you know, if I found out something was going down, there would have been action taken, let's just say that. So, anyway. So that's a lot of my memories of this place. Great memories. Good times on Ken Oak at the Shimwell house. And I'm sure, you know, my other family members have their own memories of it. But I don't know. I just always felt like there was a dark air over this home. I was never comfortable here. I would come visit, and honestly, my parents only stayed here for a short while because they didn't manage their money well. The house actually ended up needing some repairs. There was like a washer leak on the floor, and of course they didn't get it fixed like most other things. They lived in denial, just like the denial that they were in a cult. And the wood floors warped, and I think they ended up selling this thing up basically on a fire sale for the next trip down memory lane, the next home, which would actually be the last one. And so I'm gonna go hit New Cut Road. See you when I get there. I'm gonna drive back there, and we're gonna go on some more of this journey, and we will end up. The last place we're gonna go is the last home, and we'll talk about that when we get there. So see you in a minute. Alright, so here we go. Back to New Cut Road. There's Iroquois Park straight ahead. Turning next to. I'm just going to go in the fast lane here. We were playing disc golf, a game that I've since taken up after leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. I've actually never really played at this park. It's always pretty busy. So apartments up here on the right, these white apartments, or cream colored, or whatever they are now. Remember, weren't allowed to work out in service there, so they had no soliciting signs, and they'd complain. So we'd get big groups together and all take a building and go in there and kind of ambush the place before anybody could call and get pissed off. Always a sign that you're doing the right thing. It's a little apartment building over there where my youngest brother Steven lived for a time. Yeah. I don't really know where he lives today. I assume my brother still lives in Louisville. I know he's married, or he was married. I assume he's still married. I don't know. I don't know anything about him. So, you know, that's what Jehovah's Witnesses do to families. That's why I'm out here alone doing this. So we are about to hit up here on the right is the Taco Bell, where my dad was obsessed, and we would go there like every Sunday after the meeting. Oh, actually, here, we're gonna go over here Here on the left is a restaurant called El Terrasco. El Terrasco holds a special place in my heart, we'll say. El Terrasco is where the Last Supper occurred. For those of you who've listened to my podcast, This JW Life, you know what I'm talking about. So, after I had reconnected with my disfellowship brother, and I was actually making plans to go up to see my brother in New York, I had asked my mom for some mementos, some things to take my brother, some childhood memories, some pictures, something to prove that he had a life, that he was a child once, that he had anything. And so my mom got together some things to give to me, and we met my parents at this restaurant. My mom at that time was making up, well, I don't know, I wonder if she was making up a story. She claimed that they had bed bugs at their trailer, which we're going to drive to here in a minute, the last place they lived. She claimed that they had bed bugs and that we couldn't come over for that reason. Claimed my dad got bed bugs. He was on dialysis and he had gone to the hospital. She claimed that he got him at the hospital and brought him home, and that she was afraid to let us in the house. But I have to say, as time has gone by, I've kind of wondered if they ever had any bed bugs. But that was just an excuse. They didn't really want to tell us. They didn't want us to come over anymore, because those bed bugs lasted for quite some time, and we weren't invited back over ever again. And so when I went we were going to pick up these things from my mom, we kind of had this meetup here, this restaurant behind me, El Terrasco, and it's a place that we had gone to a lot, had a lot of good times here, a lot of good memories. Loved the food, loved the people who worked in here. Just a good place. But that day, on the way, when we were driving over from Indiana, apparently my sister had a Twitter account, a secret Twitter account. And my disfellowship brother followed it, and I didn't know that. And so he texted me on the way over to say that she was calling our meetup The Last Supper. So we kind of had a heads up as we were coming over here that this would be the last time that we were probably ever going to see my family. And it was. Till that moment in hospice, after I was shunned, when I got to, I don't know if got to is the right word, but when I went to see him one last time at hospice before he died. But this is where the Last Supper took place. This is where we met, where we got the contraband, the pictures of my brother's childhood and some mementos or whatever that I could take up to him. We went to see him in New York, and we parted ways at this El Terrasco Mexican restaurant, pretty much never to see each other again. So, alright, that's this place. Now I'm going to take you to the Kingdom Hall. So let's go see where so much of my fucked up J-Dub childhood was spent. Alright, so we're on Old 3rd Street Road now. We are approaching Chrisland, I don't know, Avenue Drive something, road. Chrisland or Christland. This is where the Kingdom Hall is located. So the Kenwood congregation, this is the Kingdom Hall that I grew up in. As we drive up on our left, you're going to see a nursing home. And right past the nursing home, Kingdom Hall. So there's nursing home. Oh my God! It's not a Kingdom Hall! That is crazy! Holy fuck! It's like a Vietnamese temple or something. Whoa! What the heck? First of all, there's patio homes all built up next to it, which is weird. This is all new. Let me get my camera out here. Turned on. But the Kenwood Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, former Kingdom Hall, is not a Kingdom Hall anymore. Wow. I cannot believe that. I'm going to have to drive through. I cannot believe. Where in the world do they meet now? Wow. I gotta say, I had no idea this was going to go this way. You all are learning this as I am. I've gotten to go into my childhood home, which I really didn't think was going to happen. I mean, who the fuck would have guessed that? Now I'm sitting here in front of the Kingdom Hall that I thought I was coming to visit, and not a Kingdom Hall anymore. What the hell? It's the... I'm not even going to try. That's a Buddhist association. Wow. Wow, I cannot believe that. So, it's a Buddhist association apparently. There's the building. This is the driveway. I'm going to try to do this. If I can... I'll use two cameras. Drive a stick one-handed. This was our Kingdom Hall. I cannot believe. There's the door to the Kingdom Hall. Went in that door so many times. This is the parking lot. Clearly. Wow. And back here is what used to be called the pit. It is still quite a pit. This pit has claimed cars. It's just some sort of runoff or drainage thing. But every so often you'd have somebody who parked back here. One lady, go ahead and stop this. One lady forgot to put her parking brake on, and she was driving a stick, and her car rolled backward into the pit, and I had this old van and a tow rope, and I towed her out of the pit. Another fun parking story is you'll see that the parking lot drops off there as it goes to the nursing home. And my mom one time forgot to put the parking brake. Apparently parking brakes are important, people. But Mom forgot to put the parking brake on. We came out of the Kingdom Hall one day, and we were like, where's the car? We couldn't find her car. Her car had rolled down the embankment there. I don't know how it managed to hit nothing, but it was just sitting over there in a weird position. It had just happened to roll right over, right off. I can only imagine the poor bastard sitting over there in the nursing home watching this car roll across. Oh, that's a weird glare. I'll have to get that off the camera. Watching this car roll across and end up in their parking lot. That would have been hella weird. But yeah, this is the place. This is the Kingdom Hall. Was the Kingdom Hall. Holy crap, it's a Buddhist place now. I hope they actually use it for good. What are we going to do if somebody pulls up right now and is like, hey, what are you doing? And I could ask them, hey, can I go inside? And then I got to go in there. That would be awesome. I wish that could happen. We need that to happen. We need that for the channel. Maybe Jehovah will bless us with that as well. Wow. I'm obviously just riffing here because this is all new to me. I didn't expect this. This is crazy. So yeah, this is where the magic happened. This is where I gave talks. This is where I met a lot of friends that I've had, some for life. Well, not during the periods where they were shunned, but you know, people that have meant something to me for a long time. This is where I cut the grass as a young brother. I spent many times out here cutting the grass, many times alone, because nobody else would show up. This is the building where I had friends who experienced horrific things, maybe not inside the building, but then they would sit in the back of the building in rooms and talk to the elders and not get the help that they needed. People who were molested, people who I spent many days in the back talking to the elders because my mom was always going to the elders about my dad and how mentally and emotionally abusive he was, and I would sit back in the back and the elders would ask me to corroborate her stories, which I would. They never did anything. My dad was still an elder and he still gave public talks from the stage in this very building. Public talks on happy family life, no less. But this is the Kingdom Hall where I grew up, where you know a lot of my far too many hours of my childhood were spent in this building, trying to be good enough, trying to be good enough so that my family would love me, so that my God wouldn't murder me, and trying to keep everybody else happy but me. But you know, what choice do you have when you're a kid, right? You gotta do what you gotta do to survive, so I did. And then of course I made vows. I dedicated myself to Jehovah by getting baptized, and then I was kind of locked in, and that fear, obligation, and guilt took over. And that fog wouldn't lift until I was, it didn't officially lift until I was 38 years old. And I left the cult. Of course, by that time I had moved on to Indiana, but different congregations, same experiences, just as an adult instead of as a child. And wow. Well, alright, so now we're going to go on to my parents' last stand. This is going to be where my parents lived when everything went down and they would eventually shun me. This is also the house or trailer, mobile home, whatever you want to call it. This is where they lived when my dad died, and you know, I never got to go back. So let's take a drive, and I'll see you over there now. Alright, back to New Cut Road. We are now on the last leg of our journey. Take this to Outer Loop. Then I'm going to take you to the trailer park where my parents last lived. So my parents, like I said, they had inherited some money. They got the house over on Ken Oak. Things didn't go super well there. And when they sold it, They were trying to salvage, I think, as much of the money they have left, and they ended up buying a trailer in the Southland Mobile Home Park. They particularly like that park because a lot of other Jehovah's Witnesses live there, right? May have been able to get a better deal in another trailer park, may have had a better deal on a better home in another community, but this is the park that they had to live in because there were other Jehovah's Witnesses who lived there. And you know, cults got to stick together, right? You'll notice that a lot in Jehovah's Witnesses. You'll see a lot of people kind of live near each other. So here we are now in Southland Mobile Home Park, and I'm going to take you to kind of where JW part, at least this little one road journey, everything being off Taylor Boulevard / New Cut Road starts. Right, but there's actually going to be a catch here, a catch that I knew about before I came here. And that is, let's see, I don't want to, I'll just park this empty lot here. It's as good as any because lot we're looking for here, the home I'm looking for here, doesn't exist. So in the most fitting of endings for this part of my life, the trailer that my parents live in, they lived in until my dad died. And after my dad died, as far as I know, my mom let it go back. They just you know, my sister my brother, he was youngest brother who was living with them at the time that they moved into this place. He had gone off and got married. My youngest sister, my only sister, but she's the youngest of the bunch. She's about 20 years younger than me. She got married, and right when she got married, you know, my dad had died not long before that. So my mom left the place. I don't know where she is. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure where my sister lives with her husband, nor am I 100% sure where my brother lives with his wife. But they live where they live. This is where that life ends. My mom, I guess, let the trailer go back to the bank. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know, but it's gone. And so I used to, you know, after we were first shunned, my wife Jenny and I would drive over here and just kind of drive by the place and, you know, see their cars sitting there. And because we used to come over here a lot, almost every weekend. We didn't have a lot of friends as Jehovah's Witnesses in Indiana, and our congregations were often left out of a lot. And so we would come over here and we'd visit my family and watch TV, eat Mexican food. Sometimes we'd go up to El Terrasco and we'd eat, or there's a good Chinese place we'd go to, or we'd get pizza or whatever. But we'd do different things to try to, you know, and we had a good time. We watched sports together, we watched shows together, and then it all went away, simply because we no longer believed what they believed. We didn't want to be Jehovah's Witnesses anymore, and we couldn't shun my other brother anymore. And that was it. And it was literally it. I mean, it's the end of the road for so much of, you know, of that part of my life. They're all gone. My dad's dead. My mom, you know, after my brother and sister got married, my mom left this place behind. I don't know what happened to the trailer, if it was repoed and taken away, or what they do to the place, but it's not here. And I don't know. We started this journey today with a boarded up house, and we end it with a place that just no longer exists. And it's really there's the metaphor for my Jehovah's Witness childhood. Boarded up, no longer exists. It's just a colossal waste of time with people. I'm not again going to say that there are good things that came out of it. I met my wife. I have these experiences. I've learned a lot. I can see things now that a lot of the average person may not be able to see in life. Propaganda when it's used, things like that, because I had a certain life experience. I have people that are still in my life that did come from that part of my life, and I cherish that, because this little one road journey that I took today, everything off this whole life happened off this one road, and so many people were on that journey with me at different parts of my journey down that road, and so not to throw it all away, but also at the same time it's sad to see that basically my family did throw that away. I hope that someday maybe some of them will wake up, and that part of life won't be for nothing. Won't be for, it just has a hollow end. I shouldn't say it's for nothing, but it has a hollow ending, doesn't it? I'm just sitting here in a trailer park, with a trailer where my parents, lived at the inn, no longer exists. The Kingdom Hall that I once went to, there was so much in my life. The Kingdom Hall is now some sort of Buddhist temple or whatever it is. The home that I grew up in is now boarded up. I do believe it's going to be a rental, and it's actually nicer than it ever was when I lived in there. But that's fitting too. Things go on after that part of life, and they can get better. And my life is beautiful today, and I have people in it that care about me. I have fulfilling work. I get to help people who've grown up this kind of life, who've gone through the pain, let's just call it despair at times, of living that kind of life, and I now get to help them recover, and I absolutely love it. It's the best thing in the world that I do. I get to help people tell their stories. This is just a little part of my story here, but I help people get to do that. That's a beautiful thing as well. I actually have a life that matters now, a life that impacts other people, and this JW life, the name of my first podcast, This JW Life, just in the end, just rings hollow. And I think you can see that in this little trip down memory lane. It's hollow. The players are gone. The things are gone. The buildings are gone, or either completely gone or just moved on, right? Yeah. And so I hope you've enjoyed this little trip down memory lane with me. I've certainly been shocked by it myself. I didn't realize some of these things. You're seeing these things for the first time with me. I had no freaking clue. This has not gone how I planned. It has been a weird little trip for me. I got a lot to think about, a lot to process probably just from this myself. But the good news is, when I turn off this camera and I drive back home to Indiana, I'm driving back to a beautiful life that I've created, to my own house, my own wife. I've got, well, we're in the age of Corona now, so I have my own friends who I'm not able to see quite as much or the way I would like right now, but that's going to come back. Unlike a lot of the things that I once had in my life. And so, lesson, appreciate what you have gratitude for those things. A lot of things in life, well, actually most things in life, everything in life is temporary. So make the most of it. Live a life that you love. This is the only life we get. So, don't don't squander it in a cult. And if you've left a cult, don't squander it pining for the cult. Don't squander it, pining for the people that used to be in your life. Work on that past. Work toward making peace with it. It doesn't mean, look, you've seen this today. It impacts me, of course. Of course it does. But I've moved on. I've moved on to a lot of things that are really wonderful. And there is life after Watchtower. There's life after that family that leaves you behind just because you don't want to be a part of their book club anymore and participate in their religious MLM scam where they're basically out peddling Watchtower magazines, and of course they're a real estate company instead. But anyway, you don't have to live that life. Life can be beautiful. Go find the life that you want to live. I leave all my podcasts with the words, love others, do no harm, and go be happy. And I am happy. This is a part of my life that, I look back on and it really wasn't always that happy. But I can truly say today that I am. I want that for everybody else. So don't sell yourself short. You've got a story like this too, I'm sure. And it is a mixed bag when you go back and look at it. But there are things you can take from it, things that you can see about yourself from that journey. Don't throw it all away, and take it on in, make something out of it. Don't let them take your whole life. I think I'm just going to leave it at that and head back to my beautiful life. And I hope that when you leave watching this video, you just head back into yours. And if you don't have a life that's beautiful, reach out for help. Let's work on it, because you can have something that's worth having.